Hello and welcome to the Photo Brigade podcast. I'm Robert Kaplan, and I'm here today with Bryan Better. How you doing?
Good.
Good. That's
How
all
do
you
I
got to say. You sound good.
I'm great.
All right. Sounds better now. See what I did there? Okay. We're here at Adorama, their event space. Got a little late start, so if you're watching online, thanks for joining us. But I want to first thank Adorama for letting us use their space to record this podcast. They're a nice event space. You can check them out online at adorama.com/events. And you can also check us and our live events at photobrigade.com/live, where we post these podcasts and all of our live events that we host here and elsewhere. Also, big thank you to Canon Professional Services for your support, Tenba Bags, and Rode Microphones for these sexy microphones. So,
Yes. Thank you, Rode.
Thank you, Rode. Thank you. So, how you doing, Bryan?
Good.
Yeah. It's I'm sorry for the late start and everything,
all right.
but I'm really looking forward to chatting with you some about your career, your kind of intense year that you've had in
Yep.
your life recently. But first off, let's just go ahead and get a little background on you so that folks that maybe don't know you can get a better idea. So can you give me a little bit about your background and what you've been shooting lately as we go through some of these photos so that
Okay.
folks can see what kind of work you do?
All right. Where should we start? Where I started out?
Yeah, when you
I've-
went
I've been-
professionally, or did you go to
yeah.
school for it and all that kind of stuff?
No, didn't go to school for it. I'd always been into photography, I guess, growing up. Had some friends that did it, but couldn't really afford to do it.
Yeah.
Then after high school, traveled around a bit. Was able to get probably a Pentax. Started shooting.
Started shooting on like a Pentax film deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a lens. Started doing like arty stuff. Wound up here in 2001. Actually,
oh, wow. So you've been here longer than I have.
one of my yeah, it's been almost 15 years. It's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm just hitting the 10-year mark.
Goes by quick.
Right.
Actually, one of my oldest photography friends works here. Angel.
Here at Adorama?
I don't know if he's actually on site anymore. Is he on site? Yeah, one of my oldest friends. I used to visit him over at a store he worked on. Was at Alkit. He was working on Alkit. I shouldn't mention other stores. should I?
Yeah, maybe not.
No, he's always been here. Best store ever. Anyway, yeah, through him, I kind of met some other photography friends. At that time I was still very new. And, everything I was shooting was very, arty kind of school.
So you
stuff.
started off more shooting artsy type
Yeah.
versus the more news and
Right,
photojournalism.
and I'd always, always loved news and photojournalism, documentary stuff, and always imagined myself getting into that, but never really knew how to. Anyway, fast forward, did some assisting, started doing some newspaper stuff.
What
here
kind of
and there.
assisting did you do?
Mostly still life stuff. And then some fashion stuff here and there. But really didn't get any, because there's no real news photo assisting,
News photo, right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just sort of...
I mean, the best you can probably do is what you did is interning.
Right, interned a bit, which was nice.
I didn't even know existed at that point.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but then, I got some assignments from, the New York Post, the New York Sun. I think one of these frames was. Do you remember when the New York Sun was around?
I do. I remember they were there like right when I first started as an intern back in 2015.
Yeah.
I remember. I think Gary He worked for the Sun,
that
didn't he? Or he
sounds
interned at the Sun when I
Yeah.
interned at the Times.
Yeah.
And they folded pretty quickly, though.
They did, but
I
that was
blame
that
Gary
was a
He.
great. That was a I do too, actually. Yeah, I think he should fund a new New York Sun.
He probably could, actually, knowing Gary. So let's talk about how. I mean, so we've gone through some of these photos. You,
Right.
Like the first couple pics here
Yeah.
are from the subway, the Second Avenue subway,
Yeah,
which is
dig
I don't know how long
dig
ago
of
you
the-
shot these.
This was probably 2010.
So, I mean,
2011?
it's still under construction, and I think it will be for quite some time
Jeez,
yet.
yeah.
But when did you kind of switch into shooting more news and really getting paid to do what you're doing?
Probably 2004,
Yeah?
I'd say. I was doing some assignments, mostly from the New York Sun, and then, I would chase news around every once in a while. The B&N pager, uh, sold some stuff to the Post and the Daily News,
Mhm.
and whatnot. And
Do you make
then-
have you been, and do you continue to make predominantly the majority of your money through editorial clients?
Not anymore. I now these days I'm freelancing. Most of my work is through Getty, but I do more of the what I would call corporate celebrity jobs.
Right.
That I'm usually the in-house guy, which is great.
Right.
Having the
Corporate's
access.
where, corporate and commercials where it's at. I mean,
Yeah,
in terms
yeah,
of
yeah.
making some money.
Yeah, it's definitely a comfortable place to be. But I don't get to take the exciting news photos as much as I'd
Yeah.
like to anymore. But
I noticed you were shooting with a small mirrorless camera.
yeah.
Was
Got
it
the Fuji
Fuji X something?
X10.
X10.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
had you? So a lot of people are transitioning to
Yeah.
mirrorless or rangefinders and stuff these days. Do you find that that it's just you? Have you picked that up for a particular reason? Was it because it's lighter or?
Yeah, I got the Fuji X100, the first one.
Yeah.
A little while after that came
My
out.
wife
It
had
was
one of those, yeah.
Very very exciting. It had its quirks, but every camera does.
It's true.
And then, when I got hurt last year, I things were very, unclear of how my hands were gonna work.
Right.
I don't know if we should rewind.
We should
and
we
tell
should
that
transition right
story.
into that now that you've mentioned it. I'm gonna switch over to some photos that I pulled off Facebook today. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Mom.
Hey, Mom. So explain what happened to you almost exactly a year ago
Yeah.
today.
A year ago, I was in Miami shooting Art Basel for Getty. Went for a dip, and I ran down the beach. Went to dive into a wave, as everybody does.
Uh-huh.
But I was probably in knee deep water, expecting it to still be knee deep where I dove into. I did one of those flat dives, but it was a lot shallower. It was probably only a couple inches deep.
I don't know where this one came
Oh
from.
my gosh.
Sorry. I like that though.
Yeah, that's
Short hair.
Yeah,
Pre-Jesus hair.
I think that was backstage at a Victoria's Secret show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Which is what you were doing yesterday. Were you doing something Victoria's Secret yesterday?
Yeah, I did the Victoria's Secret viewing party
Oh,
with all of the
sounds like
Victoria's
an
Secret.
awful job. So explain. So you basically, what I saw is when this happened, we started seeing a Facebook page, which I actually have back here.
Yep.
Get Better, Bryan Better.
Yeah.
And,
my wife, my aunt, and a couple friends started this to raise some money. Hospital bills are
Pretty astronomical, I would
pretty
imagine.
astronomical. Although, people say what they will say about affordable care.
Right.
We were pretty lucky to have a lot covered. A lot more than I thought. I thought our out-of-pocket expenses were going to be hundreds of thousands.
And so that's actually another thing that we should talk about because you're a freelancer, you've been a
Mhm.
freelancer. I know that at one point, we should back up, you were a staffer?
Yeah. So, I'll do the quick career. So probably 2004, I started freelancing for Getty, and they, keeping me busy as they do now. And then probably 2 years after that, I got hired staff. I was there for 4 or 5 years, and then got the opportunity to go staff at The Daily, which was a startup underneath the News Corp umbrella, and it was a not a newspaper per se. It was an iPad kind of news
Oh, interesting.
something.
I missed this. I missed this
Yeah,
trend.
it was great, but I think they might have just been too early, and not as profitable as a giant company like News Corp would have liked. So I was there for 2 years, and then they closed, and now I'm back freelancing, and Getty keeps me busier than ever. As a freelancer, it's so fortunate.
So now that you're a freelancer, you were last year when you had this awful accident and everything, you mentioned healthcare costs and everything. I know as a freelancer, that's one of the not so great perks about being a freelancer is that you are responsible for your own health insurance. You don't have a organization covering you. How did that affect what happened? Did you already have the proper health insurance?
We had decent insurance, and then my wife, who's amazing and everything, is somehow works magic when it comes to dealing with phone calls and emails and research, and we had great insurance, but not good enough. And luckily we were able to kind of upgrade to get certain things covered. It's like so complicated. My brain doesn't even comprehend it, but luckily I have her, and she figured out the right way to deal with.
Yeah, I bet that was a headache just in itself. Nevertheless, what you're going
and
through.
I wasn't even able to
deal with it. Yeah. So let's go into your injuries. So you dove into this wave. You obviously hit your head, neck, or whatever.
Probably hit the top of my head. Broke my neck. I was face down in the water, holding my breath. I knew I was paralyzed. Held my breath, and luckily somebody walking by pulled me out of the water right as I blacked out. And it was in between that time of blacking out and my body resetting, so my body didn't breathe in, so I didn't drown. Luckily, that would have made things so much more complicated.
Yeah.
Because people that wind up drowning and surviving, just getting salt water in your lungs leads to years of infections.
Ugh.
So that's one, two.
Always looking at the positive side of things. That's important.
Yeah, and I was lucky to have friends and family there to keep me positive for the whole step. This guy just walking by pulled me out of the water. I had some friends that were close but didn't. They were up the beach a little ways and didn't realize immediately. But once they saw people dragging me out, they ran down, got help there. Knew what to do. Knew that I shouldn't be moved. Help came. And luckily, I being in Miami, I was the closest hospital was Jackson Memorial, which they're connected with the Miami Project, which they're big research, and they specialize in spinal cord injury research and rehab. And it's
this couldn't have happened at the better close place,
the best place possible.
That's great.
Everything after my accident, it could not have worked out better. Every step.
This microphone arm out of your face here, so people can see your beautiful face. Okay, there we go. That's better.
How about my hair?
Hair looks great.
The hair is important. Should have brushed it.
So we're in the hospital now. What was the extent that you broke your neck? You were paralyzed, but you're clearly not paralyzed anymore. How did that happen?
I broke my C5 vertebrae, which affects chest down, and then also the outside, the outer part of your arms and hands. So my thumb and they were affected, but not as much. I can even now, like the feeling is normal on those, but not so much on the
Like
rest.
tingly or something, like
Yeah.
it's asleep?
Exactly. So that's the C5 vertebrae. I initially, like, I could only move my arms kind of up and down. I could move my wrists a little bit, but no finger movement, no chest down, nothing. But luckily, when they brought me to the hospital, they put me on this hypothermia treatment, which is they stick a giant needle in you,
Oh my God.
and then I think they just use saline solution and cool the body down to, it was either 93 or 95, which
Helps with swelling or something?
it prevents the spinal cord from swelling, and it winds up, it swells inside your spine and winds up destroying itself.
Right.
Which is it's a
Pretty bad
sick
thing, yeah.
thing to
Oh,
think
yeah,
about.
yeah.
But so that hypothermia treatment kind of prevented that from
Becoming any worse.
becoming any worse or making it completely permanent.
Yeah.
From the my injury was called incomplete, which means that none of my nerves were actually cut. They're bruised, which a lot of people, even with bruised spinal cords, never return any of that. But it prevented that from being a permanent
Situation.
situation.
So So I noticed this huge outpouring of support
Yeah.
for you, which was amazing. Not just through that, but I mean, just it's amazing how Facebook can come to the aid of people, and like I mentioned earlier, we've seen each other a few times out and about
Yeah.
on assignment, and all of a sudden, your face like this on
Yeah.
the computer right now is filling our news feeds and everything, and everyone was showing this massive support. Do you feel like that helped? I mean, how much did that help? Just having that support of this, we're a rather small photo community. Obviously, you have the
Yeah.
support of your friends and family, but
I mean, being so fortunate and lucky and blessed to, like, just know that people care,
Yep.
care to even comment or care to say get better, and then care to actually donate money. Like I was floored when, like, being a jaded New Yorker, like you kind of, and people I've never met, never heard of, donating money. Like, it's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And okay, so how have you adapted to now that you're mostly recovered? I
Mhm.
mean, I saw these photos of you, with your hands using a
Yeah.
camera, and obviously you're back to shooting some
Mhm.
like you were last night. How has that transition become? Are you now again making a living
Yeah.
back to normal?
Yeah. Day-to-day life is pretty normal. I mean, the easiest way for me to explain how I am now is I probably aged like 70 years.
Oh, man.
Like, I'd probably compare it to being 100-year-old. Like, my body is achy and stiff, and there we go. Is that better?
It's better.
A lot of the time, and a lot of my time is taken up on what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to go to the bathroom, and how much exercise I'm going to get if I feel
Right.
good enough. But going to work, is a pretty, it's
Yeah.
all right now.
Yeah. And so you also have a kid,
Yep.
and so you had a lot to sort of live for.
Yeah.
A lot of reason to
Yeah.
push through it.
Yeah, that was a big part of being in Miami, and then the task of trying to get home was
Oh man.
like,
Did you have to take an ambulance home?
I mean, that was an airplane ambulance, that was an option.
Uh-huh.
But those
That ain't
things
cheap.
those things are 30 grand
Oh
out of
my
pocket that insurance is not paying for.
Oh my gosh.
But we, I was so lucky that early stage that I was able to progress. Within 2 weeks, I was able to progress to the point where I could have gotten onto a commercial flight, first class, where I had some extra space. But just that was huge.
Yeah.
I was able to stand a little bit with help from two people, but at least I was able to stand and transfer to a regular seat,
Yeah.
which was huge.
Right.
I mean, saving that much money.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're
On a
right.
2-hour
Exactly.
flight.
You get a handful of first class tickets for that in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so predominantly now, we were talking earlier before we started. You're doing a lot of this like sort of red carpet, celebrity entertainment type
Yep.
work
Yep.
for Getty.
For Getty, yeah. It's usually
Yeah.
it's usually hired by the whoever's hosting the event
Okay.
or the brand.
Right.
I'd call it kind of commercial or corporate celebrity events.
Right. And so right, so which is better paying, obviously,
Yeah.
because it's a corporate gig. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a pretty interesting story. I mean, you just sort of came to the city, started working for some smaller papers, worked your way up, and sort of, I mean, that's it. You've got this, and then the community. I mean, okay. So, who are the people that you see the most out in the field? I mean, there's always, every time I go out, I personally have shot a little bit of everything,
Yeah,
So it's not.
yeah.
I've done the celebrity, red carpets. I've done stakeouts. I've done
Yeah.
spot news. I've done features, yada yada. But it seems like sports. There's always like a group of people that
Yeah.
you see a lot. Do you
Yeah.
tend to see the same group most of the time?
Yeah, I mean, these days, obviously, the celebrity guys I see most. But a lot of the events that I wind up doing these days are smaller events directly for a brand, which a lot of times I'm the only photographer at. I do miss doing like some stakeout stuff, some hard news stuff every once in a while.
Right.
But I'm more than happy doing what I'm doing.
Well, everyone kind of gets into their niche. It's
Right.
like. We're eager as we're young, but
Right.
then we kind of get into like what we enjoy doing the most,
Yeah, yeah.
what works for our schedule, what works for our, entertainment value, I guess
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could say. And, you do get to do some interesting things like
Yeah, yeah.
Victoria's Secret viewing party.
Yeah, last night I was at this.
I just like the name of that. The Victoria's Secret viewing party.
Yeah, and there was one other photographer there, but me and one other guy, I think almost all of the girls that walked the runway were there.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting place to be.
Really cool. Really cool.
Not bad.
So what's in the works for you? Are you working on any particular project stories? Just going to continue taking the daily assignment work?
Yeah, I mill around ideas all the time of doing stories that rarely get started, but I think now I kind of really want to get into maybe starting projects to do something to do with spinal cord injuries.
Oh wow, that
Don't know
good way to give back. Yeah.
I feel like I owe it somehow to give back.
Yeah, that'd
at
be
this
good,
point.
yeah,
I don't know where exactly how that's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Which direction it's going to go, but
Well, I remember also going back to your injury. There was some people that really helped you out who had spinal cord injuries
Oh, yeah, yeah.
themselves.
I mean the community, like the support is amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this guy Alan Brown, there's a picture in there. He's an advocate.
One of these guys
He
here?
works. Yeah, this with the orange shirt.
Mhm.
He works with the Christopher Reeves Foundation, and they do a lot of support, which is,
Oops.
it's great. Even talking to somebody that can relate, a little bit helps out big time.
Right.
And then with resources too, like you have a huge accident like this, like where do you go?
Right. What's next? It's
Yeah.
like you have to completely change, redo your life, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Christopher Reeves Foundation, is that sort of an organization that maybe you'd be interested in working with, charitably?
Yeah, I don't know at what level yet.
Or exactly how, or whatever?
Right, yeah, because, people's vision is different.
Right.
Whether, because then, you'd say, oh, I want to photograph something, and they, a lot of people look at me as, an event photographer, and they're like, oh, we have this event, come shoot it for us. And
Right.
it's
It's like, well, that's not exactly what I was
what-
talking about. Yeah, I hear you
know,
there.
I'd probably want to work on it personally, to kind of get, because as you know, like sometimes you got a project in mind, but you don't know exactly where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know how other people deal with it, but
Right.
maybe people do have very clear visions of
How to-
projects and how
That's
to
one
go
of the things
about it. and
I'd,
what-
I'd like to figure out is how I can help in some way
Right.
doing photography, like you said, beyond just doing free work for somebody.
Right.
I mean, and that's one thing. It's nice that you can do that,
Right.
and sometimes I'll help out in various ways. But, like, taking portraits or,
Right.
or creating a book of some sort, or working on a long-term project
Mhm.
that can be sold for charitable donations,
Right.
or something along those lines. And it's actually something that I've been really contemplating. Maybe there's a way to grow the Photo Brigade community in a way that we can together somehow give back, doing what
Right.
we do. I don't
Yeah.
know what it's going to be.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that, for instance, I think it's Jeremy Cowart has Hope portraits or
Mhm.
something like that. It's, but they do portraits of kids in need and
Right.
issues like that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but in my career, obviously we're doing it for a living. We're trying to make
Right.
money, but our photos have inherent value beyond just that cash value.
Right.
And what's opened doors in my career in almost every aspect is using those photos to barter or get your name in, or just open, or what's the word, break the ice with
Right.
somebody. Sending an email to, maybe you photograph a celebrity or a big businessman, sending
Mhm.
them an email just asking them something out of the blue is one thing, but if you're sending them a gallery of photos that you
Right.
took, all the outtakes, say, hey, check it out, here's my photo shelter gallery of your
Right.
photos. If you're ever interested, let me know. I'd love to work on a project with you. That kind of stuff, really leads to, it just opens doors. It,
Yeah, yeah.
it really does. Do you have that experience ever with reaching out with people? Or a lot of your stuff's with Getty, though, so
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you can't really do much with the photos, right?
Not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people ask all the time, but it's like,
Getty.
Yeah.
You can license them from Getty,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so maybe there's a way that we can all do that. So going back to your having a kid, is it has that been difficult as a freelance photographer? I know that I've talked with a lot of people, talk to women like, oh, what's it like being a mother and a
Right.
photographer?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's photographers that are dads, and
Yeah, yeah.
and you have to be responsible for your schedule because you have to take care of the kid and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Did that change how you freelanced your work?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of, with working with Getty and doing events, like most of it's at night. So it kind of, worked out in the right way. And
Right,
that's,
right.
part of the reason why, I'm happy doing it,
Yeah.
because kind of, especially when kids are really young, like you want to spend as much time
Yeah.
with them as possible,
Yeah.
because,
Almost so long, yeah.
our generation, like, a lot of times dads weren't around,
Yeah.
I think, modern parenting is a lot different. It may be a lot harder, like especially with scheduling, but I think we're fortunate because I feel like there's a lot more dads that are around.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that, they get married and have kids, and it turns out that the wife has, a much better career and the dad winds up being like kind of the stay-at-home, more, taking care of the kids and then freelancing on the side. Which,
Right.
I wouldn't say that was my case. Like, we split it. My wife probably does more of the grunt work, but
Right.
it's great that I'm able to work mostly at night, and then the walk to school is probably the best part of my day.
Oh, that's nice.
Uh,
So how old is your daughter? Is daughter, right?
yeah, she's 5.
5.
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten now.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great. They're at school. They got somewhere to be.
Yeah, I know. And like you got stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah. How was your day at school?
Yeah.
Well, Susie stole my marker.
It's usually like, oh, that's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
It was all right.
And they go from 3 to 16.
I remember
much.
my little nephew going from like kindergarten to first to second grade. We'd ask him, so how was your first day of school? Like, I just can't believe how small those kindergartners are. Like,
I know.
they start seeing how small they were previously.
Yeah.
And they can't comprehend that they were that small last year. It is funny. Well, awesome. I think that's it's really miraculous that.
This was from the New York Sun.
Oh yeah, talk about this story. I wish we could pause it on here. Let me go ahead and bring those up separately here. So, this is obviously a breaking news sort of event. Yeah.
I think this came over the BNN pager when we had BNN pagers. What are they? Emotionally disturbed.
Emotionally disturbed somebody.
Disturbed subject. This guy, when we showed up, this guy was actually doing handstands on the edge of the tower.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I made a frame. I think it was we were too far at that point. And then this is them taking him down. Luckily, hopefully he got some treatment and
hopefully better now.
Yeah.
I mean, how does someone get up on there, really? Like, it just seems crazy that that's even possible for somebody, especially with no shirt and bare feet, to be able to scale the Brooklyn Bridge. Or is this Brooklyn
White
Bridge?
pants. I hope that was before Labor Day.
Oh.
Sorry, that's us news photographers in New York.
So were you
Shaded
with a
people.
group of photographers at the time that sort of chased this story?
Yeah, I think they probably had it. For what I can remember, I think this was way back. This was probably 2003 or 4.
Oh, wow.
For what I can remember, I think they had the walkway closed until they started bringing the guy down, and then they opened it up and we can get closer. But at that time, like
Right.
a couple more photographers come, and then we wind up going in as a group,
Yeah.
as you know.
Is this the type of stuff that you miss shooting, like this kind of breaking news stuff?
Yeah.
And do you at all do this kind of stuff anymore?
Not really. I don't chase breaking news anymore unless it's close and it's big.
Yeah.
I do miss shooting it. It's just it's a hustle.
It really is.
And it doesn't really pay.
Well, I kind of think,
anymore.
well, the payment is different, but
Yeah.
I kind of think that doing what you do nowadays with the red carpet, that's a hustle too. I mean,
Yeah, but it's something I've gotten used to, gotten good at, especially, with that, my photography hasn't really improved in a long time, but my, person-to-person skills, and especially when you're hired by, a brand or company to be there, and, you show up and they're not really sure what they want, or,
Right.
And you have to communicate with them and the celebrity and a publicist and a manager, and you know how that is. Like, a lot of it's negotiation. Negotiation is probably a bad word, but
no, it's true. Yeah.
You got to figure out what they need, what they want, what they don't want. A lot of it's what they don't want.
Right.
I've got many great pictures that won't ever see the light of day because
They don't care about it. Yeah.
their smile isn't right, or something like that.
And a lot of whether you're working for Getty to push on their entertainment feed, to go in magazines, or for the organizations to push out to media themselves, a lot of it's they want like eye to the camera, right?
Right.
Like it's they
The
want to see the full hairdo or the full
Right, right.
dress
Yeah.
or whatever because it makes
Yeah.
their way into these fashion magazines. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad, but I don't pay attention that much to the that end of it. You
Uh-huh.
know, that that product. I don't. But yeah, and it's almost like a miniature stock market in some way. You know, like obviously, like you know, the bigger celebrities. You know, the more photos that exist, the less value they have.
Right.
You know.
That's why I like the idea of doing it differently than the
Right.
rest. And that
Yeah.
so this is not a great photo that it illustrates a regular red carpet or something.
Yeah.
But normally there's just a line of dozens of photographers
Yeah.
pinned
this
in, right?
Yeah. This is during Fashion Week.
This is actually on a runway, isn't it? This is
Yeah. So the way that these work is, you know, the as the crowd comes in, they allow a handful of photographers to kind of walk up and down the runway and take pictures of the people in the front row.
who are the important
they're-
people?
yeah,
and
exactly.
various- yeah.
And working with Getty was nice because we have a large crew of people at Fashion Week, and you know that was probably a Getty photographer's flash going off right there.
Mhm.
But
And that's
you know,
what makes
some-
the photo.
sometimes we have a lot of people there, and sometimes we're able to walk around and get some more creative stuff.
Do you like being part of a team more so than being on your own?
Sometimes. I mean, it's nice when you're when you're at like a huge event and you have a team and you're like, all right, we all have our jobs, whether it's a big award show, someone's doing the red carpet, someone's doing the show, someone's doing backstage, someone's doing a portrait studio, and seeing it all come together,
Mm-hmm.
especially the way that Getty works, like the workflow is amazing.
Yeah. Well, they're about getting it out instantly.
Yeah.
And what is the workflow?
For something like that,
Yeah, say something.
depending how big it is and how many people they have, and obviously physical.
So you're talking about a corporate event that you're shooting kind of as the corporate photographer through Getty.
Right.
Okay.
Usually, I mean, sometimes I'll have an editor there. I'll just drop cards. They'll throw it through their.
And that's the most convenient.
Oh yeah.
I think for any
It's-
photographer. I think editing is the worst
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of anyone's
Yeah.
workflow. At least for me. I can't stand getting a portfolio together. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
stand.
I mean, I could have probably added some more, especially celebrity stuff. I could have added to this, but that just takes too much time.
Oh well.
But at a big event, sometimes they'll do wireless, where the photographer like
You're
on the
just
red
shooting
carpet.
and all of a sudden they're getting the.
Yeah. Generally, I think the photographer picks which files get sent, just
Uh-huh.
because sending all of them,
Sure.
via a small hotspot that may or may not be working because there's 100 people around you with signals.
Similar signals. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we have people running cards that come and grab cards, bring them
Right.
back to the editors.
Right.
Um,
Just depends the
they-
situation.
yeah,
really.
yeah, and they're all different. And
Did you ever get into shooting sports at all?
Only a little bit,
Because
I
in
mean,
a way,
I-
it's sort of the same. It's like
Yeah.
shooting a sport.
Yeah. I like sports photography, but never really. I don't follow like
Yeah,
kind
me
of
neither.
the like big four or whatever enough to like have this passion to like
I
go,
hear you.
go shoot it.
When
I
I
like
interned,
watching.
yeah.
I definitely love watching sports.
I like going to a game once in a
Yeah, yeah,
while. I actually
exactly.
really prefer going. When I interned at the Times, I shot like the whole season of Yankees.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I got really, it's cool because you're right on the field
Yeah.
or you're in these special places, but
But it's-
nothing beats just like being there and
Yeah,
not
yeah.
having to work and
Yeah.
transmit a photo immediately.
I think I was at a game. I think the few games that I had to shoot, and like there was a play, and I like noticed myself yelling like. So yeah, no, not those type of sports.
Yeah. And they also take a long time, games. It's like if you shoot a Yankees game, you got the time to get there and back and transmit and shoot the whole game. Got to get there before the game, stay after the game.
And I've shot a little bit of skateboarding and surfing, stuff that I've done.
More interest in,
I like the kind of individual sports, where sometimes it's more of a setup. You're setting it up kind of like a portrait rather than you're just covering a sports event. Really.
Well, awesome. Do you have any advice? I always like to ask my guests at the end. Advice for the folks that are watching. Obviously, our peers are watching this, but also there's a younger crowd or the next generation of news photographers, entertainment photographers, so on, that want to move to Columbus or Columbus. They want to. I'm originally from Columbus. Sorry about that. New York, and want to start a career. What would you say you would take if you were to do it again?
Right.
Would you take a different route than you did in your real life?
Right.
Would you recommend something different, or would you do the same thing? And
I would recommend something different, but I don't know if I would, because I'm happy doing what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with what I've done. But people coming to New York, it's a tough place to make it. Working only in New York. And having the idea that you're going to be able to do one thing, like that you're going to come to New York and be a news photographer.
Right.
It's first of all, it's hard to break in and prove yourself. And then it's hard to make a living, It's New York's an expensive place.
It really is an expensive place.
So I'd recommend kids to be open to doing different types of photography.
Diversifying.
There's obviously exceptions of people that have talent that can do it, but those people kind of know who they are, and their teachers know who they are, and the doors get opened to those type of people.
But to your point, I always say that photography, it's like, imagine it as a pie chart, right? And photojournalism is this very small slice of that pie chart.
And I don't ever want to discourage people from not doing it, because it's probably one of the most important genres of photography.
Right.
But don't be disappointed when you come here and all you want to be is a photojournalist.
It's hard to make it that way, I got to admit. I feel I've been personally pretty lucky with the amount of work that I've gotten through photojournalism. But if I just did photojournalism work, I don't know that I'd be able to cut it.
Yeah. And in the slideshow, it doesn't show here, but I've done weddings, food, portraits. There's portraits in there.
Yeah. So anybody can. I think we're getting towards the end of this. Anybody can view more of your work at bryanbetter.com. Is it?
My galleries are all just on my Photo Shelter.
Photo Shelter, right?
Yeah.
So you're a Photo Shelter user, which I love Photo Shelter.
Yeah,
Do you use that to deliver photos often?
Yeah.
When you have personal clients.
My personal clients, that's how I deliver my.
Photo Shelter is the backbone to my workflow.
I need to learn how to use it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I know you can just sell a lot more images, kind of like a stock archive.
You can. It's a great archive that's accessible anywhere with your phone. You can just. They have a new app where you can
now.
Zap things over and find your images in your archive super easily. Download them on your phone. Send galleries with all these different, download options. Low, medium, high res, different passwords.
Yeah, I have to figure out how to move, because I was trying to do that to send you a gallery, to move images
from one place
to a new gallery, but without taking them out of
move or copy versus move. There you go.
There we go.
Move moves it.
Done.
Copy copies it.
Yeah. That guy has oddly big hand, right?
He does. He's actually 3 feet closer, and that's an optical illusion, right? So that's great. So great advice, inspiring story. You know, I'm really happy that you were able to get through all of that, and it was I couldn't imagine being in a scarier situation than feeling like you're going to be paralyzed.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
or feeling that you're paralyzed.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
not feeling, just
When they told me that the hardest part, you know, it happened and I kind of absorbed it pretty quick. But at one point, you know, a few days in, they say the level that my injury was, that I might not be able to use my hands. That was the hard part.
yeah.
You know, because using a camera, like, I almost had my head wrapped around not walking again, but not being able to like use my hands and use a camera. That was the hardest.
And in your bio, the last sentence was, "You feel that you're the luckiest man alive."
Yeah, by far. Yeah.
To be alive, or whatever it was.
Yeah. When I was in the hospital, a nurse told me I should play the lotto, and you know, I told her that I'd already won. You know,
Already
like
won the lottery. Yeah.
every day I wake up.
That's great. All right, everyone. Well, thank you, Bryan,
Thank you
for being on
should
this.
Should we look at the? Should I look at it? Thank you.
Up there.
Thanks for watching. Oh, there's a main one.
See?
Cool. You should have had them numbered.
Right, camera three. Everybody can check out Bryan's website, bryanbetter.com. I believe we'll go to it.
I need to update it too.
We'll update it. We'll put in the comment section below the information below all his links.
Yeah.
Check out photobrigade.com/live again for all of these. Check. Are you on Instagram?
Amazing.
You're on Instagram.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Bryan Better.
Be better.
Be better.
Yeah.
Be better. There's so many. And Photo Brigade is at Photo Brigade, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thanks again to Adorama for hosting this, adorama.com/events.
Thank you, Adorama.
Thank you, Canon Professional Services and Temba Bags. Bryan, it was great seeing you.
Pleasure. Thank you so
and
much.
we'll see you all again next time.